Post-operative means after care of the patients. That is, once the patient comes out from the theater, operation theater, the patient will be in SICU, that is surgical ICU. And in surgical ICU, what type of care you are going to give, whether the patient is on drain, the patient is on the O2, and the patient is on um, other tubings, IV lines. So everything will be connected so that you are going to take care of the patient. After that, the patient will be shifted to the ward, and from ward and successfully the patient will go home. So up to this is surgical care. Okay. So first of all, you should know what is surgery. Surgery is otherwise card. We will call them as card. Call it as card. Card means correction of defect. If there is any protrusion, if there is any growth, if there is any elevation, if there is any mass or lesion or tumor, any abnormal growth, immediately it has to be removed, is it not? So that is called surgical correction. Second one is alteration of form. A for alteration of form. That means whichever form it is that we are going to slightly modify by doing a surgery, by performing a surgery. And third is restoration, or means restoration of functioning. Because of the tumor, the lymph flow is blocked. Because of the tumor, the blood supply is blocked or stagnated. The blood is stagnated, collected somewhere, or the fluid is collected somewhere. So it causes pain, distension. So all these problems will occur. So to bring to the normal functioning, we are removing the lesion. So he will be back to his normal functioning, that is restoration of functioning. And fourth is D for diagnosis and treatment. Okay, so next, what is meant by peri-operative nursing? Actually, peri-operative means at the time of surgery we will provide care to the patient, but for nursing point of view, you should learn, though it is peri-operative, you should learn pre-operative, intraoperative and post-operative nursing care. First of all, you should focus on the physician's point of view. So physician is totally responsible for explaining the surgical procedure to the patient, and the patient might ask the nurse. The patient will not ask questions to the doctors. Always they will ask questions to the nurse. They'll be eagerly waiting for your arrival to go meet them, check their vital signs, provide pre-anesthetic medication. So you are holding a higher post over there, responsible post over there about this surgery. So here, what is your need? Here you have to have adequate knowledge about this surgery. You should not tell that, Amma, how long this surgery will go on? I will ask doctor and tell you no. I will ask the anesthetist and tell you no. Enna anesthesia கொடுப்பாங்க. So what type of anesthesia, whether it is local or GA, that is general anesthesia, where throughout the body will get anesthetized. So all these things you should be in a position to answer their questions. Then a nursing care plan and a teaching care plan should be carried out, which includes correcting the physiological problems that may increase and next is giving the patients and significant others to complete learning and teaching guidelines regarding surgery, and then instructing and demonstrating exercises that will benefit the patients post-operatively. See, some cases you have to teach them about deep breathing exercises, then coughing exercises, then suppose the patient undergo LSES, then pelvic exercises, pelvic muscle strengthening exercises. So everything, though no, you should not tell that I am not a physiotherapist, so I don't know. No, everything you have to learn and you have to teach them, demonstrate to the patients. Planning for discharge and any projected changes in lifestyle due to surgery. For example, the patient is with the talipus, so the patient has to go walk with that only. So if there is any change of lifestyle, then you have to tell them. how he's, or if the patient has undergone cholecystectomy, and the patient is having a bag for fecal contents excretion, so or removal. So all these things are life modification. So the patient has to adjust and accommodate, for which your teaching is needed. Next, coming to the surgical experience. How a surgical experience, see, most of us would have undergone this stress in our life, but still as a nurse, you should sympathize and empathize how a patient will be. One is physical stress. Surgery produces actual physical damage to the tissues of the body, tissues, cells, everything will get damaged due to cutting of the skin, cutting off your other layers of the skin. So patient is at risk of infection. When even in your day-to-day life, if you do some cooking in the kitchen, if you have a small cut and it bleeds, then immediately what you will do, you will try to arrest the bleeding, and immediately you will apply some applications and provide pressure on that to stop bleeding, and then you will elevate the part, the finger or toe or whatever, whichever part had a cut. So all these measures you will take, is it not? Same way the patient is undergoing, and you will see that in the cut which you had it in the kitchen, you will see that you are not getting again cut after cut in the same place, or any other infection in the same place. Yeah, so you will be very cautious. Is it not the same way? When the patient undergoes a surgery and patient is having a cut on the skin and other tissues and cells, there is a risk of infection, that is post-operative infection. You should be very careful. That's why in ISICU, the nurse will not permit any visitor inside the ICU. Is it not? So to prevent an ICU setup, any ICU setup, restriction of visitors you have to maintain. Is it not? Next is effects of anesthesia and other medications. So, for example, if the patient is on GA, the side effect will be collection of fluids in the pleural space, and so the patient will have coughing, patient will have throat irritation. So, those are all the side effects. So, those things are to be avoided by teaching him in the pre-operative stage itself about coughing exercise and deep breathing exercise, and how to spill out the sputum. So all these things you should teach. Then psychological stress. Psychological stress, definitely. Even if a small cut occurs, immediately we will become so frightful, or we will be so afraid that oh, this cut might cut my blood vessel or my nerve ending or my vein. So you will have such a threat, you know. So the same way the patient also will have this psychological stress, fear about the surgery. So what is your role here? You have to introduce the neighbor patients, whoever has undergone the surgery and going to get discharged. You please introduce them so that they will talk with each other and they will clear their doubts with each other, and he will console the patients, he will support the patient emotionally. Okay, so it is greatly enhanced by the psychological stress of anxiety and worry. So loss of body parts could be due to loss of body parts and the pain, and even sometimes what the patient might think, oh, after this surgery I might die, and exposure of a body to strangers. So that will be there, because the patient will be totally non-theater dress. So patient will feel that my body will get exposed to some strangers. Okay, so all these things you should explain to the patient, clearly state that for therapeutic purpose only, it is for treatment purpose only. So the patient will get discharged comfortably, he can lead his normal life. So you have to strengthen his mind. Okay, coming to perioperative teaching. Perioperative teaching means here you have to explain the patients about some exercises, even from turning up in the bed and sitting in the bedside, and standing for a while, everything is counted as post-operative exercise. So post-operative exercises include, first one is turning. Turning in bed and early ambulation. See, this is ambulation, ambulance. Ambulation means shifting. Amputation means cutting, removal. So these are the differences between these two terms. Okay. So turning in bed and early ambulation helps patients maintain blood circulation. If you keep, for example, if you are lying down and you are lying down in the same position, and the morning when you get up, what happens? You will feel numbness. You will not lift your hand. You will not move your hands, fingers, and you could not walk even. So due to the um, block or stagnation of blood circulation, we could say. So to avoid that, you have to frequently turn the patient, change the position of the patient. So positions and all we would have already dealt with. Then stimulate the respiratory functions, because when the patient is always on the same position, what happens? There will be collection of fluids also. There are chances of collection of fluids also, and the patient will feel that if I do a deep breath, then the surgical site, the sutures will have gaping, and the sutures will get disturbed. So that sort of fear the patients will have. So to avoid, so patient will have a superficial breathing, which is not at all right. Okay, so we have to turn the patient, position the patient to stimulate the respiratory functions also, and decreases the stasis of gas. Stasis means stagnation. Gas. That is why when the doctor comes for rounds, once the patient is advised to start test feeds. First of all, test feeds means from fluid, then semi-solid diet, then solid diet. Fluid means first 90 ml, 30 ml we will administer any fluid, any form of fluid. Could be a juice, mainly juice will be provided, and the doctors will ask the patients, Amma, nalla gas pocha. Is it not? That means the gas, the flatus should not get stagnated. That will irritate the bowel, and the patient will have lower abdominal pain. Again, if the patient undergoes any surgery in the lower abdomen, that will again irritate the suture. So that's why, to avoid that, you have to see that the stasis of gas is avoided in the intestines and resulting discomfort. So how are you going to turn the patient? See in which side of the patient the surgery has performed. So opposite side, you should make the patient turn, and you have to provide side rails. Okay. So if the patient, you please keep his hands, if the patient may be still in the anesthetic stage. So you please keep his hands on the side rails so that he could hold the side rails. Then he can have a support and turn. Then every 4 hours you have to turn the patients like this. And if in between these two legs, you have to provide support to the knees by with the pillow. Okay, and also a pillow has to be yeah, supported the back of the patients. So this area you have to keep, and the patient should not lie down flat, because of accumulation of fluids in the lungs. Okay. Next is deep breathing. That is, even in our day-to-day life, we are advised to have pranayam, is it not? So deep breathing exercise every day we have to perform, which will be highly helpful for all the body parts now for normal functioning of the organs, all organs. So deep breathing exercise in the pre-operative stage itself, you should teach them how to do a deep breath. He has to hold the abdomen. He or she has to support as diaphragm, have a key, have both the hands on the diaphragm, and hold like this. Then do a deep breath. Take a deep inhale, then just hold for a fraction of the second, then do a deep exhale. So that will help in preventing postoperative pneumonia and atelectasis, that is incomplete expansion of the lungs. So to avoid that, we have to advise the patients to do deep breathe. Patient definitely will not cooperate with you because of the surgical side. Suppose the patient has undergone LSCS, the patient will say, Amma suture vittudumma, மூச்சு விட்டா suture விட்டுடும். No, suture vidadu, suture gap vidadu. You advise her that this will not happen. No complications will occur. If they don't do deep breathing only, they will develop with, or she will develop with pneumonia, and incomplete expansion of the lungs will occur. Third exercise comes coughing. Why coughing is needed? Because if the patient, especially in the case of general anesthesia, the patient will have this problem, respiratory, expelling out the secretions or chest phlegm. All these things will be problematic to the patients. So you have to advise him. That's why we give inhalation through Nelson's inhaler. Okay, any other method also, if the patient is a child, then give a blanket method, then tent method. So all these methods of inhalation is to be given for the patients. Okay, so it is done to mobilize and expel respiratory system secretions, which is because of the effect of anesthesia, mainly effect of general anesthesia. Then it is tend to collect the phlegm, the fluid, um, will be collected in the lungs, and it will lead to pneumonia. So to avoid, so what are the postoperative complications? If you take respiratory pneumonia, then atelectasis, that is incomplete expansion of the lungs. Then other conditions like numbness, then this one, blood supply, poor blood supply to the system. So all these, the limbs, not system, limbs. So all these things will occur. So to avoid that, we have to advise the patient strictly to follow all these exercises. So coughing, how a patient should be. The patient should have a pillow always, and ask the patient how the nurse is holding her diaphragm. The doctor is holding the diaphragm, and then asking him to cough. Next is extremity exercises. So this, we provide them the foot board. Foot board is to prevent foot drop. Foot drop is the what is that, the toes will be fallen like this. So the patient will have pain over the limbs. Okay, so to avoid that, extremity exercises we should advise. It helps to prevent circulatory problems such as thrombophlebitis by facilitating venous return to the heart. Thromboembolism, thrombophlebitis, thrombus formation. Thrombus means a blood clot formation in the venous flow. That means the vein, the blood vessel, and that will travel up to the level of heart, and the patient will have collapse. Okay, cardiac arrest. So whenever the patient is having this thrombophlebitis, you should not be immediately, the patient has to be treated by providing exercises and wearing this crepe bandage, elevating his legs while sleeping and while lying down in the flat surface. So all these things will prevent thrombophlebitis and other complications. See, one one leg is flexed and one leg is he has to straighten his leg here, in the right leg, the left leg, and the right leg should be flexed. And next one is, one leg could be flexed and the other leg could be made straightened. See, this is, he can elevate, and the second exercise, he can keep it down flat, in a flat surface position, flat. Okay, So these are the exercises, and see the toe exercises also you should do. Then nursing implications for preparing a patient for surgery. So what records the patient has to carry or the nurse has to maintain before she sends the patient to the theater. One is patient's chart. Patient chart should be an identification. That's why we give them the bed number, ward number 5, 232, ward number 3, ward number 5 is post-operative surgical ward, or female surgical ward or male surgical ward, does it not? So each ward will have a number, and inside the patient bed number will be there, and the patient's IP number will be. IP number means when the patient has become inpatient. After getting admitted inside the hospital, the patient will carry one IP number. Okay, so that should be followed lifelong, should be maintained. Then checklist for health records. What are the checklists we have to have? Whether the patient has undergone all the investigations, and the patient's Aadhaar card, and the patient's previous history, previous medical history, previous surgical history. If the patient is diabetic, what about the last taken blood, the report about the HB level, and other blood counts, so gas analysis, blood gas analysis. So everything is to be taken care, and you have to have a checklist whether all these things are present. ECG, then X-ray, chest X-ray mainly, because the patient is going to have GA. So chest X-ray, if the chest is normal only, the patient is permitted to go for general anesthesia. If the patient is having any respiratory problem, means the patient is patient is it is contraindicated for the patient to not to follow general anesthesia. Next is vital signs taken prior to preoperative medications. That means if you, for example, the patient adrenaline and Fortrin, we will give them a injection, pre-anesthetic medications. Once we give the pre-anesthetic medications, so what will happen, like atropine or Fortrin injection? So what will happen? The patient will have it has got a seductive effect. The patient will always feel drowsy. Patient will feel drowsy, always feel sleepy. Okay, so you have to check his before administering those medications, and those medications will increase the pulse rate of the patients. Okay, so you have to, but that is the side effect, nothing to worry. So the patient, before going for pre-anesthetic medications or pre-operative medications, the patient's vital signs like pulse, respiration, blood pressure, so all these things are to be checked, monitored thoroughly, and to be recorded. Then if the patient has got any allergies, so you would have seen in the hospitals, doctor will ask you, in the penicillin allergy unda, இது சாப்பிட்ருக்கீங்களா, பேராசிட்டமால் சாப்பிட்ருக்கீங்களா, எந்த மெடிகேஷனுக்காவது அலர்ஜி இருக்கா உங்களுக்கு, is it not? So allergies, you have to collect the history about allergies. Like sulfur medicines, sometimes may be allergic to some patients. Okay. Next, what is the final preparation of the pre-operative patients? Final preparation could be enema administration, and now there are so many systems changed. Even without giving enema, there are other rectal suppositories used. Okay, so that the large colon will get cleaned. Okay, and next is operative site. Why this is given? Why the large colon should be cleaned? Because during surgery, if the patient passes feces, if the patient passes motion, then that will contaminate the total theater bed. Thereby, will get infection. Is it not? So to avoid that, we have to give him. We have to clear his bowel and small intestine and large intestine. That's why 6 hours, the minimum 6 hours before surgery, the patient will be on NPO, that is nil per oral. So what happens? The stomach is clean, intestine is clean, large intestine is clean, so everything is clean. So then personal hygiene. Operative site skin preparation. Actually, there are pictures. Suppose the patient undergo surgery, knee surgery means exactly that knee area will not be cleaned. One that is 30 centimeters above the surgical site and 30 centimeters below the surgical site will be properly cleaned, shaved. Okay, and total even a small hair should not be there. So proper shaving should be done, and so that is about operative site skin preparation. Then personal hygiene. So patient will have a fear that if I take bath before surgery, I will have fever. No, the patient, you please advise him to go have a thorough bath, because after surgery, when the patient is in SICU, that is surgical ICU, after surgery for 2-3 days, the patient will be given only bed bath, which you have learned. So how to give bed bath and what precautions you have to have in your mind, all these things you should follow, everything, you know. So personal hygiene, and next is removal of nail polish. So first of all, we nurses should not have long nails and no nail polish, no mehandi or mardani, because all these will cause infections and damage to the skin of the patients. So you have to remove his nail polish or her nail polish. Then mouth care is important. If the patients could do on his own or her own, fine. Because Orum's theory, you will be learning about theories later. So in Orum's theory, that is self-care theory. Self-care means you have to promote his self-care. When the patient is hands are in a normal functioning, then give the brush in his hand and ask him to do brushing, and no need that you should do brushing, no. So that is promotion of self-care, Orum's theory says. Okay, then clean hospital gown. So the patient cannot go on in his dress to the theater, so hospital gown will be provided, and gloving, so leggings, everything will be provided to the mask. So all these cap, everything will be provided to the patients. So all are sterile. So once the patient has worn everything, the patient should not move from the bed because he has taken pre-anesthetic medications. Okay. Then a removal of prosthesis like dentures, then contact lens, then if the patient is with the artificial limb, all these things are to be removed. Pulsate எல்லாம் இருக்கு இல்லையா? So then all these this beauty lens, so all in the eyes, so all these things are to be removed, because that again will cause infection. Sometimes that will come out during surgery and will cause infection and irritation, disturbance. Okay, so to avoid that, and when you give general anesthesia, this dentures, if it is there, there will be a fall of dentures, thereby what happens, the patient will be this one block, respiratory arrest will occur. So all these things, to avoid that, you have to remove his dentures, pulsetta எடுத்துறணும். Okay, next, coming to the intraoperative care. So far we have seen the preoperative procedures. One thing I forgot to make a mention here, that is consent. If the patient is above 12 years, then you can get a consent. Now it is made as in 18. So you have to get a consent from the patient, or if the patient is below 12 years, then you have to get the consent from the parents of the patient. Okay, consent is if any untoward reaction occurs, if any unnecessary event occurs after surgery, or untoward reaction occurs, or unwanted thing happens. So I am solely responsible, not the healthcare professionals. So whatever happens is purely, it's my responsibility. So the patient will sign and give you. So that is whose responsibility? Purely the nurse's responsibility. The doctors will not come to the patient, and doctors will not get all these things. So checklist will not be prepared and maintained by the doctors. It's again the nurse's records to, it is purely nurse's responsibility to maintain the nurse's records. And with that nurse's record, you should shift the patient to the theater. Okay. So intraoperative, while you are handing over the patient to the theater sister or theater nurse, then yes, or scrub nurse, then what you should do there also, you please console the patient, support him physically, mentally, so that, and reassure him that he will come back soon with the normal functioning. He will be back to his house. He will go for his work. So all these things in a positive reinforcement, you should give in a positive way, you should talk. Okay. So patient undergoing surgery is the main focus, and no operative procedures without taking a risk. So that is important. And patient may experience both physical and psychological stress, and reassurance is to be given verbally as well as through facial expressions. If you have your face so with the tears, if your eyes are with the tears, if you are so emotionally have a bond with the patient, no, if the patient attenders are crying, the relatives are crying, and you also cry, means the patient will be totally broken. So you should control your feelings, you should control your emotions, and send the patient with these records inside the theater. So what are the different types of surgical procedures, or what are the different classifications of surgical procedures? One is ablative surgery. Ablative surgery means procedures to remove any organ or any tissue. Ectomy. Ectomy means removal. Okay. Appendicectomy. Okay. Appendectomy. Ectomy means cholecystectomy. Okay, so the all these things, appendectomy means removal. Removal, appendix is a small extension of the growth of the intestine, large intestine, is it none? So what is a cecum, appendix? So all these things you would have studied in anatomy, right? So this appendix, when it gets inflamed, it will be usually treated with Metrogyl or Flagyl with another broad spectrum antibiotics. If it doesn't get treated, if the patient still has McBurney's pain, exactly that site is called McBurney's pain, where the dancers will keep their hands, both the sides, the dancers will keep their hands and dance, so right side is exactly, you have appendix. So if the appendix gets inflamed, what happens? It has to be removed, no other go, but nothing will happen. If it is removed, don't think that large intestine will totally block. No, not like that. So appendicectomy is a small extension of your large intestine, so that has to be removed. So that is called, those type of ectomy surgeries are called ablative surgeries. Ectomy means removal. Okay, then biopsy, it is also a surgery, that is removal and examination of a tissue. Here this total tissue is removed, that is called ectomy. Biopsy is a small portion of tissue is removed for investigation purpose, for diagnostic purpose. Suppose the patient is having a tumor here, a tuberculous tumor lesion here. So what will happen when the patient is having here? Naturally, the patient has to, no other go, he has to go for biopsy. So a small portion of the tissue from that lesion will be removed, and it will be sent for biopsy for testing whether it is a cancerous lesion, or it is a tuberculous lesion, or any other cyst it is. Okay, if only fluid collection is there, so all these things will be tested. That is called biopsy. So breast biopsy, liver biopsy, you would have seen all these things. Okay, then constructive surgeries. Constructive surgery means procedure to repair a malformed organ due to congenital anomalies. Congenital, in some babies you would have seen, the patient will have separated, this one palate. Okay, so what is cleft lip? Cleft lip and cleft palate, hard palate. Okay, so hard palate, the patient will have this separation, or here you could see in some children the it will be separated, there will be a gap and you could see the teeth inside, so that is called the cleft lip and cleft palate. Okay, so what it is, a malformed organ from birth onwards. How you can do, you can, and you would have seen some children having sixth finger. Okay, here sixth finger the patients will have, and so what, that is malformed organ, so that also will be removed. So removal or repair of a malformed organ due to congenital anomaly. Anomaly means disorders. Okay, so congenital abnormalities. So repair of a cleft palate will come under the classification of constructive surgery. Clear? So ablative surgery means total removal of any part or any organ which is diseased or infected, or it is cancerous, who knows. So what could be? So for example, appendectomy. So those, the term is ectomy. Then biopsy, that is a small portion of the tissue is removed, that is called biopsy. And third one is constructive surgery, where the repair of any malformed part of the body is done. For example, whenever it is asked in the university exam, you have to mention any example. And fourth one is elective surgery. Elective surgery means, elective means planned. Yeah, there are two types of surgery basically, emergency surgery and elective surgery. This appendicectomy sometimes could be elective, sometimes could be emergency. Suddenly a patient will come with a severe abdominal pain, the patient, and even stone. Okay, cholecystectomy. So suppose the patient has stones, gallbladder stones, and kidney stones, so that has to be removed. So it could be, for example, this appendix could be elective, or this appendix could be emergency. But there are some surgeries, especially cosmetic surgeries, will be always elective. It is not emergency. Okay, so surgery performed for a person's well-being and absolutely not at all necessary for life. Given for breast cancer patients, there are some cosmetic surgeries suggested, but it is not advised because there are artificial processes are available. Okay, so that can be used for the other breast to fill up the gap in the area of breast. There are some braziers available with the pads, so that can be used instead of going for cosmetic surgery. Okay, then reconstructive surgery. Reconstructive means skin grafting. Suppose there is a burn, so surgery done to rebuild the tissue that has been damaged. For example, skin graft after a burn. From the thighs, the skin will be removed and will be grafted in the burnt area, so that new tissues will be formed or rebuilt. Okay, so that is called reconstructive surgery. And next type is palliative surgery. In yesterday's class, palliative care, I told you. Palliative surgery means, for example, bowel resection in the patient with terminal cancer. Right? Terminal cancer means that is the final stage, advanced stage of cancer. So in which case they have total bowel resection. Total bowel is to be removed because the total large intestine is become cancerous. So it has to be removed, and the patient will be totally on the drain to remove the feces and to evacuate the fecal contents. So it is called palliative surgery end stage. Surgery to alleviate the symptoms of no other go. The patient's bowel has to be removed or to be resected. Whether the prognosis will be good or bad. Prognosis means the after surgery, whether the patient is going to die with any other complications or patient will successfully come out from the surgical procedures, from the infections. So that is called prognosis. Okay, so palliative surgery might lead to a good prognosis or a poor prognosis. So these are the types of surgeries. So what we have seen, ablative surgery, biopsy, a type of surgery, then constructive surgery, then reconstructive surgery, elective surgery, and palliative surgery. Okay, so who are all in this surgical team? You all know that surgeon, he is the main hero of this surgery. And next is nurse. Nurse, there are different nurses in the theater. But here for surgery, the nurse who is going to assist the doctor is called a scrub nurse, who is going to scrub her hands and go for assistance. Okay, so scrub nurse, then anesthetist. Okay, so surgeon is the leader of the surgical team. Anesthetist, yeah, he is basically a physician who is trained in the administration of anesthesia. So he would have studied the MD, he would have completed his MD anesthesia, and he would join as anesthetist. Then scrub nurse. Scrub nurse who prepares the setup and assist from setup means it includes everything from the entrance of the theater. Okay, cleanliness of the sterile technique is to be followed from the entrance of the theater up to the theater table, OT table we say. So OT table and the lights, OT lights and tubings, then Boyle's apparatus for giving anesthesia and oxygen cylinders, central connection oxygen, central connection anesthetic gases. So all these things are to be properly sterilized and disinfected, and your equipments and the surgical set, your surgical instruments are to be properly packed with a signal lock. Signal lock means which is if you paste the signal lock in blue color, that will change into black color. Once the signal lock changes only, you should confirm that the instruments are properly sterilized. When you autoclave, autoclaving you would have studied in microbiology, right? So autoclaving, how will you know that the instruments inside the pack is totally sterilized and free from the microorganisms or germs by before pushing it into the autoclave, you should paste a signal lock as a small paper, okay, with the paste. So once you open the autoclave, the signal lock should be changed into black color, okay. So scrub nurse, then who else is there? Circulating nurse, scrub nurse will hold a main role, whereas circulating nurse will help you in delivering the other supplies. Suppose this one is not sufficient, tubing is not sufficient, okay, thermovac is not sufficient, then they need one more catheter, they need one more tubing, they need the one more this one pad. Okay, so one more gloves. Sometimes they will remove this glove. They feel uncomfortable with the glove. Immediately they will remove. Then they will wear another glove. If the wound is very much infectious, so they will wear two gloves and do the surgery or any cut. Okay, so nurse could deliver supplies to the sterile field, but she also will be properly. She also will follow the scrubbing technique, and she also will follow the sterile technique. Okay. Next is initial assessment of the patient and the continued monitoring. So vitals, wherever the patient comes first, our duty is to check the vital signs and patient's level of consciousness. That's why we will ask the patient to start counting. One rendu solla, is it none? So counting. So when the patient goes into unconscious stage, okay, with the anesthetics medications, okay. Next is saving all discarded sponges. This is very, very, very important. Suppose you use 11 sponges, each pack there will be 10, and outside one pack, I mean 11 inside, one will be out, totally 12. In some hospitals 9 plus 1 10. So how many packs of sponges she is opening, she is delivering, circulating nurse is delivering, so she has to have the circulatory nurse should have a count how many packs she has given for surgeries after with the blood stained or fluid stained or any surgical site discharges, stained sponges will come out, is it not? So the doctors will just throw it on with their forceps. They will just throw it on the theater floor. So you should start counting. The circulatory nurse should start counting how many sponges the doctor has used. And before closing the suture, before closing the surgical wound, you should give a green signal as a circulatory nurse. Yes, you should show like this. Okay, that means all the sponge counts are correct. How much ever sponges you used, the packs are correct. Okay, so you have to go, you have to give a green signal to the surgeon and anesthetist before closing out the wound. Okay, and observing the surgical procedure and anticipating the need for equipments. Observing the surgical procedure means whether the any oozing out, oozing will be there, of course, any severe, whether any severe bleeding occurs, or any other form of gaping occurs. All these problems you observe. Okay, though the doctors are very much monitoring, but still it's also your duty. You also should report to the doctor that this what is happening here. In preparing label for the patient specimen, suppose the patient that is sent to the, so that is preparing label for the patient specimen. So suppose the from the surgical site it is removed, then it has to go for it has to be sent for that sentinel biopsy to be sent to the lab for a diagnosis whether it is cancerous or any other form of infections. Okay, so up to this we will see. So up to this, we have seen the who is the surgical team and who what roles they have got and what are the different types of surgeries or classifications of surgeries and what is meant by peri-operative nursing and what are the pre-operative procedures, what are all the intra-operative procedures, what are all the post-operative procedures we have seen. Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue with this. Any doubt, you can ask me, you can chat me even, or send me a mail. Okay, after this we will stop today and tomorrow we'll continue. Thank you.